It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. It's Feedback Friday, and I've got Scout with me this Feedback Friday. There's the BB, there's the Scout. Yes, okay, so this Feedback Friday, this was a really, really interesting week for Feedback Friday. You notice that I took a bunch of comments that were sort of in the same bucket for this, and on recording, I'm not sure what to call it. I'm sure I will come up with a genius video title for it. No, I'm terrible at video titles. But here we go. Somebody asked me a really good question about the idea of male media being dangerous, female media being crap, and the idea of female media and body image. And this was a tricky one. This one made me think, because obviously the focus, the data's all over the place. Because on the one hand, we know that media for, teenagers and adults, media does not override immediate peer group, immediate loved ones. The people around you are more powerful in determining your opinions and self-image and all that stuff than any piece of media. However, there are studies that show that Barbie in particular, extremely thin dolls. Now, by today's standards, I would argue that Barbie is not extremely thin. She just has a corseted waist, which is why this stuff is kind of they apparently did use Monster High dolls and stuff like that. So they found that if girls play with ultra thin dolls at all, even playing with other types of dolls like Dora the Explorer, Lottie, I don't know what that is. It does change perceptions of ideal body shape, and playing with the Dora doll doesn't undo the change to self-image. And this is where we get into this complex thing of people do not necessarily have to be an ideal. And this is why I think that the idea that male interests are seen as dangerous and female interests are seen as crap is that the solution to the Barbie problem was to change the Barbie dolls. Keep making them, but make them more realistic looking, whatever that means. For a week that I have been suffering through not being able to find anything that fits my proportions, let's talk about realistic bodies, okay? Let's not leave anyone out here. Anyway, we change it. That's not the same as, it's not ban dolls. It's the same way it's ban violent video games, ban Dungeons and Dragons, right? You know what I mean? Do you see the difference? Like, they'll target this one thing on girls' media for improvement and go back to, the sexism in video game. We don't talk about the sexism in Barbie, right? Barbie is a phenomenon trapped in amber, and that's why I thought the Barbie movie was so well done. It recontextualizes Barbie. It shows that Barbie was always intended to not be real. She is everything. She is superhero of girldom. And the problem is there's only one of her. And I don't agree, to be clear, that girls' media should be seen as crap and boys media should be seen as dangerous. Obviously not. That's why I'm pointing out the difference. This one really made me think, because it's like, yes, we talk about Barbie, but we don't get rid of Barbie, right? The way for a long time we talked about violent video games and totally nerfed any sexualized depictions of women from games, from Western games. I can still say from Western games because, I mean, let's face it, all the thirst in Baldur's Gate 3 was the dudes, with a side of Karlach. And people will argue me, that was a joke. That was a joke, but obviously line up the women in that game, line up the men in that game. You know, there are no super voluptuous women in Baldur's Gate 3. It is still far more acceptable to show hypersexualized men than women. Every single one of those guys. I mean, Shadowheart brags about how many people she slept with too, but the sexuality of the male characters is so in your face, right? Like, oh my God. But I'm getting derailed, and I forgot to do the help support this channel. If you like this content, help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it, coffee.com/Leanna K. Somebody asked me if they want to buy a session, not for themselves, but for another person. What should they do? What you should do is go fill out the Leanna Cares form, and in the very last field, it doesn't say to do this. I should kind of add this, but just give me your contact information, explain in the write-in form that you're purchasing it for someone else. We can work that out, no problem. I just need their consent. So yeah, let me know. So yeah, getting back to female media, dangers, body image. It's not the media that is treated as bad, right? Because what do we call it? Patriarchy, the male gaze. It's not, romance novels are just garbage. They're polluting young girls' minds. No, we go to Stellar Blade, which has actually made me feel a little bit better about myself, because I'm like, if Shift Up could just manufacture those jeans, they would fit me. I would not have this fucking clothes misery that I do right now. And, you know, somebody asked a couple of related questions. One was, they told a story about basically how they don't talk about a common interest with a younger demographic because they don't want the instant and permanent judginess that they're seeing in younger people. And that's a very real thing that people that make this stuff also have to contend with. And that comes into another comment that was made about, yeah, we know pandering's bad, but we're sick of them pandering to the other side. And I find this interesting that it's, these comments, and this is not a criticism, it's just, help me out here. Please define the other side. Because it seems like the one side is men and the other side is feminists, and feminists only represent like a minority, between 10 and 18% of women, depending on who you poll. So it's not men and women, because women don't want the mohawk hair. Mohawk Storm's cool, but even, you know, everybody freaked out about Storm in X-Men 97, going, this proves it's woke, and it wasn't that at all. I'm not gonna spoil it, but oh my god, flowy hair Storm is a big fucking plot point there. And it was, you know, in a lot of ways, it was the same with Tila. It was just this Media is in a straitjacket right now, and this idea that they are desperately trying to get a bunch of anti-capitalist Marxists to buy their product, that doesn't make sense. Anti-capitalists don't spend money. They're anti-capitalists, right? It is this. And this is why it ties into another question. Why do women seek out these very toxic romance stories? And I really think the simple answer is it's the same way men consume media that isn't completely for them, but it's the closest thing they can find that they like 75 to 80% of, right? You have to read these horribly abusive, toxic romance subplots to read a story where a man thinks a woman is good and isn't trying to improve her, though there is sort of there's a skill that's missing instead of like some moral failing. And it leads to kind of cardboard characters in these stories because, they have to be perfect, but with a very obvious kryptonite type flaw that so the male romantic lead can be useful to them in some way without suggesting that they need to work on themselves at all because they're perfect the way they are. They're perfect in a flawed but perfectly perfect way. It's complete doublethink because there is this message girls are sent that if the guy you think is awesome, your boyfriend, your husband, whatever, sees a woman who is more attractive or more feminine or both than you, and she gives him the time of day, he will dump you for her. And it doesn't matter how many men say that's not true. The programming is so strong. I have women, I've had conversations this week from women. It's like, I was so secure. I was so confident until I fell in love and got into a relationship. And now I'm a jealous, insecure mess because every time I see him, even looking at another girl, I feel an intense sense of not good enough. And I really think it's that we center the cheaters. We center the bad men. We center the men you can't trust. As opposed to centering the guys who, I know a lot of guys, they meet a woman and they fall in love and that's it. She's the one. And it doesn't work out and then they're decimated for like 20 some odd years. Guys do not just hop from woman to woman. Guys have insecurities too. Guys have body insecurities. They were always there, but they are getting worse because again, we're Batman in the bat suit, that's a suit. But now that we're seeing a lot more male toplessness, male nudity, we're seeing body image issues in men. And again, I don't think with Barbie, there's just Barbie. There isn't Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Daredevil. There just aren't enough of these female archetypes, these female role models who are different. Iron Man is obviously a very different person than Captain America is, very different than Bruce Banner or Spider-Man, my favorites. To be truthful, I like the weird, like second stringer, third stringer D-list character. That's why the Peacemaker series, I'm like, I have to watch this. It's why I love Suicide Squad. Stuff like Polka Dot Man and Ragdoll from Ragdoll from DC Comics. I love Ragdoll, right? Like, Ragdoll's awesome. Stuff like that. But I'm not typical. Plastic Man is... People don't even consider Plastic Man a member of the Justice League. Plastic Man... I got a Plastic Man back there. He's on the Spectre's shoulder, giving him bad ideas. Yes, I set up Plastic Man, giving the Wrath of God bad ideas, because I love Plastic Man. You know, yeah. Jack Cole for the win. I've actually got multiple Plastic Man up there because I got my Plastic Man here. I freaking love Plastic Man. But if you see the characters I got back there, it's like MODOK before it was cool, The Watcher. I got freaking Vindicator just because the Canadian superhero, even though Vindicator's often written as a dick. You guys think Cyclops is bad? Oh no. Vindicator is worse than Scott Summers on his worst day. But, you know, I have, like, those are the ones I like. I love Dupe from, it was X-Force and then Ecstatics. But I like the weird characters. I've always liked the monsters because I never felt pretty. I've always felt monstrous. And when you throw a beast or a Sasquatch or, like, Plastic Man's power seems like freaking awesome, right? Like, that, don't undervalue stretchiness. He can, like, get shot and it don't matter. It just bounces back. Like, Plastic Man, amazing. What have I got? What else I got? But, I mean, I dealt with a lot of my body image issues through cosplay. Stuff like Power Girl. Poison Ivy, Shanna the She-Devil, like anything Frank Cho drew, I could embody. And that was a big deal for me after the years of Rob Liefeld ass. No slight to Rob Liefeld. He's a super sweet guy. But he drew thin-hipped women. And, you know, then we got the Michael Turner stuff and skinny, skinny, skinny. And it doesn't matter if Supergirl and Cyclone and stuff like that are skinny, as long as there's Power Girl and Knockout and characters that are different body types. This does not mean, you know, because the minute you start suggesting we open it up to different kinds of beautiful, people keep firing back. No, because, you know, the first thing they think of is the, you know what I mean, the kind of CalArt style girl in shorts with obvious muffin rolls. And it's like, no, shapewear exists for a reason. We can still have clean line art and have it be a little bigger, because athletic women are built in different sizes. I had a ballet teacher who was kind of textbook Rubenesque. She was a big lady, completely proportioned, super fit, just big. And if we can have, you know, the skinny heroes and the male heroes, I mean, the skinny heroes and the built heroes, and even, you know, they're more villains, but stuff like Blob, or, I mean, his name's Blob, so that's a bad example, but Mojo. Oh my god, I fangirled a Mojo cosplayer, and I think it was Chicago Comic-Con one year. I went running across the room. I was cosplaying Poison Ivy at the time. I was like, Mojo! And I just hoofed it, because it was the coolest costume. You know, there's points of inclusion, and they, you know, there's E Honda in Street Fighter. There's what's the guy? There's another bigger guy. You know, there's the shopkeep from Resident Evil Village. They may not be the most heroic characters, but they exist. And this is the big disconnect, because I hear guys going, oh, I don't want men like me represented in media because they're always the punchline, they're always the butt of the jokes. And the women are going like, oh my god, that would be better than absolutely nothing. I mean, when the unattractive woman in the MCU looks like Tatiana Maslany, women just want to quit life. Like, think about that, right? Tatiana Maslany is an objectively beautiful woman. She is slim, she is pretty, and she's very charismatic. And that is considered so unattractive that no guy matches with her on a dating profile. That is not real. That is what women perceive. And there are plenty of things in guy world that men perceive that aren't, feeling attacked by media, things like that. The feeling is real, even if the reality being presented is not completely factual. And I do think that there may be some women who don't get any matches, but it's not the normal experience. Like, I don't know whose experience that was based on. That seemed like people who didn't do online dating, because the problem for women is often many, many low quality matches and a lot of pigs. So that was, I really like the She-Hulk show, but that was the thing where I'm like, yeah, that could have been better handled. The idea that Tatiana Maslany wouldn't get matches on a dating site. Come on. And it's not what men and women talk past each other on, is that there is this, men don't get a lot of attention from women, period, because men traditionally are the ones that have to do the pursuing. And I've told my story about, it was 7th grade, 8th grade, but I just said, I'm not going to wait for a guy to ask me to dance. I'm going to go ask guys to dance. And so I asked this guy who said no, and then told all his friends, and I was the mockery of the school for 2 weeks. So I get what it's like, guys. And there is a weird thing that happens when, and I've talked about this before, when you are the one to ask and a lot of guys will go, you're too aggressive, it's freaking me out. Like, I have been told I am sexually unattractive because I make the first move. I ask men. And a lot of guys watching this, like, what? That's the thing, right? This is a valid experience. Wanting a woman to make the first move is also a valid experience. And this is what makes this stuff so hard. There are billions of people on this planet. There are a lot of mismatches. The lack of attention from women, or the lack of attention from women that men recognize, is saying, you are attractive. I have been accused of being creepy because I compliment people on, I said to a client this week who was like, women have nothing. I'm like, dude, you have absolutely beautiful eyes. And it's true. Like, I'm not blind. And he kind of fought it for a bit and went, thank you. I think the honest compliment needs to come back, because there is something powerful about just complimenting a person to say, I think this is good about you, and wanting nothing out of it. The problem women have is that there is this, if I just accept a man's attention, am I going to get into an unsafe situation? And so it's not the lack of attention from men that drives women to these very toxic romances. It is he's dangerous, but Like, he seems dangerous enough to be exciting, but he's never of any real threat to me. It's amazing how many vampires drinking blood and men biting women in these books and grabbing them by the wrist and you know, a little bit of violence, but they'll never go too far. So you get the passion, but not the violence. And that, I think, is what causes these women to seek out these. And you talk to any woman and they'll all go, yeah, a lot of toxicity there. But it is a man who will express interest and show passion without, you know, there's a lot of shit in these romance novels, but bitch suck my dick is never in it. I mean, they never go Andrew Tate, right? That I was actually struck by the use of the word bitch coming out of one of the romantic leads in one of these books. I'm like, ooh, that snapped. I mean, I was never in, but I was like, oh, I don't like you. Because a man who will call any woman a bitch, any woman is like, okay, he'll call me that behind my back too. And some women may not care. But what it is these guys pursue and take no for an answer. They are incredibly flattering, and it's all the love languages. It's quality time, somewhat. Gift giving, tons of physical affection, tons of flattery. It's kind of something for everyone in this way, and it is safe. And no matter how toxic you recognize, there's this moment where I'm like, I really wish someone would talk to me that way. And somebody may talk to them that way, but because it's immediate, oh my God, have I given the wrong impression? Like, am I in trouble? You can't take it in. In a trashy romance novel, it's safe. And it's interesting because somebody said to me this week about very artificial looking women like Eve in games like Stellar Blade, or the anime girls or whatever. And he said the fact that she's not real is the point. Real women can hurt you in ways that you cannot possibly imagine. Her being impossible is why it's safe. And it's like, I never saw Eve as impossible because I'm sitting there going, where can I get those jeans? And where can I get a shirt long enough? Like, my reaction to these things is never normal, and that's why I ask. But it's the exact same appeal of these shitty romance novels. And by shitty, I mean toxic, not poorly written. Obviously, you know, it's drawing people in, and no book's perfect, but we have so given up. The same guys said, I'd like to say I've given up hope, but no, I haven't been blackpilled. It's the hope that hurts. It's like, fuck, are we really here? Yes, we are. And these toxic romance novels are exactly the same as the waifu games. They fill the same purpose. They fill the same needs. You can kind of go, wouldn't this be nice? But she's not real, so I don't have the social comparison. Because men aren't raised to think you have to be like Barbie. And that's the big difference. And I mean, okay, average in every way girl, impossible bear man in romance novels, or Batwing man, or telling you, ginger boy with clockwork eye and facial scarring, superior to both, but I am in the minority in A Court of Thorn and Roses fandom. Lucian is best boy. But it's all the same impulse, and it's all the same urge. And I don't know why we can't just go, this is a point of commonality, instead of being, that's sexist, that's shit, you know? And the difference is women play these games primarily aimed at men. Guys don't touch these romance novels. The one exceptions to that seems to be My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. The whole Brony phenomenon. A guy came to my support in the comments because, like, is it really dismissed as crap, this stuff for women? And one guy said, as a former Brony, I can confirm, yes, it is. And that's because he'd actually watched it and seen the discussion, and bronies were treated as strange. And I freaking love bronies. There's a lot of really tough motherfuckers in the military who are bronies, because when you're in a war zone, friendship is magic. There's a lot in common here. There's a lot of points that we can have empathy for each other, and we can go, yeah, it's the same impulse, so let's talk to each other, not past each other. But of course, there's a reason I don't get all the views that somebody who goes male gaze, patriarchy, misogyny does, right? No one wants none of the money wants the people to talk to each other. They want to divide us because that's where the pandering comes in. Get them good and lonely and then take their money. That's the Andrew Tate model. Set them up to fail. Oh, you need another course. Oh, you need this thing. You need the cam girl. You need that. Because we fill people's heads full of shit. They have a bad reaction. They retreat. And then they're vulnerable. And I don't know how to solve this problem other than talking about it and being called every fucking name in the book. And to close, I was reminded of this. I'll save that for another one. I'll close a different way. These are complicated things. And we need to have an ongoing discussion about this stuff, but I don't want to make 3 to 4 hour deep dive videos and we can only scratch the surface in 30 minutes. Nobody's going to watch me do a 3 to 4 hour deep dive anyway. I do think the way through this is talking to each other, talking to people who have differences from us. Notice I said are not different from us, have difference from us. Because what I look for is points of commonality. There's more that makes one human similar to another human than the differences. And we focus on the differences because that's how you divide and conquer, keep people vulnerable, and then exploit. I don't want to do that. I want to bring people together. And I have to do it in small amounts because mass media can't care about you. And we have to do that at scale, and I have no idea how to do that. But I'm doing my little part that I can. And I'm demonized for it, but I don't fucking care because I'm literally the devil. It's coming up, guys, on 10 years of literally the devil. We're going to have to do something about that. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/LeannaK. Remember, sign up for a Leanna Care session for you or a friend using the contact form in the description box below. Thanks for watching and have a great weekend.